Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out new episodes of the show every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. If you missed an episode or want to get more information about the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com. I'm excited to be attending and recording shows at Rainmaker 2016. You can join keynote speaker Gary Vaynerchuk along with modern revenue leaders at the only conference dedicated to the sales development industry, March 7th to 9th in Atlanta. Get tickets now to receive cutting-edge sales content from thought leaders, learn best practices during breakout sessions, and come network with the world's top sales influencers. If you use the promo code BTFS and the number 30, you'll get 30% off. More information is on the show website at buildingthefutureshow.com. I'm also going to be at the Business Rocks Tech, Music, and Investment Summit recording shows live in Manchester, England, April 21st and 22nd, where Steve Wozniak is headlining. More information about the summit is on the show website at buildingthefutureshow.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Harris Glasser, businessman and author of the book, It's My Money and I Want It. Harris, welcome to the show.
Wonderful to be here, Kev.
Yeah, I'm excited. You have quite the interesting past, and it's been, kind of a very good ride for you. And so I kind of wanted to have you on the show just to kind of talk about, your experience and kind of why you decided to write the book. But maybe kind of before we get into kind of the book, let's cover kind of where you grew up.
Sure. Brooklyn, New York, right?
Sure. Okay. Interesting.
You think I have that kind of accent? You know what I mean?
A little bit. I noticed that.
Right.
So, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York?
Yep. Most of my life there.
Okay.
And did business.
Okay.
That's why I did business.
So, what did you take kind of after high school? Like, did you go to post-secondary or university or something like that?
No, actually, I went to a college, but didn't really make it through because my feelings were you can't teach me business from a textbook. That doesn't work. Mm-hmm. I have to go out there and taste it and feel it. And I've always said that it's interesting. Someone goes to the high school, they graduate, then they go on to college, and they study the textbooks, and they go on to teach business and marketing. And I'm saying, you can't do that.
Sure.
You can't. And so I wasn't much into college. I went a little bit to satisfy my dad, but after about a year and a half, that was it.
So what did you take in college, just out of curiosity?
Oh, my dad was a contractor for the city of New York.
Okay.
And so I took a course, construction technology. But the crazy thing was, for whatever reason, I guess since I was like 11, 12 years old, when my dad first showed me a set of plans, putting up building, it was like, oh yeah, that's what that and this is that on the plan. He says, yeah, you know everything. And it was so bizarre. I mean, Kev, it was like I was looking at a set of huge blueprints. And it was like I was reading English. So yeah, so I really wasn't interested in what the professors had to teach when all they did was learn it from a textbook. And from the time I was a little kid, I was trouncing around on construction jobs with my feet in the plaster and the mud and the concrete.
That's awesome. So you leave college. Then what did you end up doing?
Okay, so I went to work for about a couple of years or so with my dad and his partner.
Okay.
First of all, every summer I used to work on their jobs. I'd work as a laborer, let's say with the plasterers, and then with the roofers, and then with his concrete men, then with carpenters. So I got to see hands-on how long it takes to do things and what's involved to do things, right?
Sure.
And then eventually I worked as a super for them. That was every summer in high school. And then when I got out of college, I went to work from the office, and my dad's partner was a tremendous estimator. And I would be in the office taking off all the plans and specs and putting together numbers and going out into the field and checking the plans and helping put together the numbers. I'll never forget, I said to my dad, I'm getting married. Right here I was going to be 20, I was 20 years old. I was getting married. I said, Dad, I'm getting $65 a week, which even back then, Kev, was not much money. If you went 10 times that, what is it? $650 today. Uh,
So what year was this roughly? Just out of curiosity.
1964.
Okay, okay.
Right?
65 bucks. Interesting.
You're right. Oh, pizza was 15 cents and a Coke was a dime. So 25 cents, you got a slice and an orange drink or a Coke.
Sure.
So, so I got married.
Well,
Yeah.
just out of curiosity, what was rent like in New York in kind of the mid 60s? If you
Okay. Okay. We lived in Brooklyn and we
Okay.
paid, I think, $112 a month.
Wow, interesting.
I'm sorry. My wife, wait. My wife just said, how much did we pay? 126. 126
126.
for a huge one bedroom apartment. $126 a month.
That's fascinating. It's come quite a bit in the last few years, hey?
Oh my God. Oh my God. I should have held on to it.
Yeah, totally. So I'm kind of curious. So, okay, so you're working for your dad. Kind of did how long did you stay with him? And
I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years, and I got married.
okay, so you
Right?
got married. Okay,
I come back and had a few dollars from the wedding, and my dad lent me a few dollars, put together $5,000.
okay,
Right? Which
sure,
let's say today is like 50, 75,000, 15 times or whatever. Right?
sure.
Sure, if pizza was 15 cents, today it's two and change, so it's 15 times. I started bidding little tiny jobs for the city of New York Department of Education. They were called open market orders. Under 2,500, you didn't need a bond. Any government kind of contracting, city, state, or federal, you need a bond. Jobs under 25, you didn't. And I was low bidder. Everything was a sealed bid. You take out the plans and specifications, and you visit the job, and you fill out the bid form. At a certain day and time, you're sitting there, and they open up all the envelopes. And I got my first job, low bidder for $550, something like that. I was like, cool, cool, right? Oh my God. Well, I didn't have any men, so my dad lent me one of their laborers, and in 1 week, in 5 days, I made like $300. I'm like, oh my God, where has this been my whole life? You
That's
know?
awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, it was like unbelievable. And the next job I got was like 1,500 and change, and these were certain kind of jobs that I could do with one man, and just help him a little. And I was doing well, and then I got to the point where I was able to get bonds.
Okay.
You just, all right, and
Just for the listener that doesn't know, what is that exactly?
a bond is from an insurance company guaranteeing the city or state or federal agency you're bidding for that your bid is in all good faithfulness. And if you are a low bidder, they will put up a performance and payment bond that guarantees even if you die or go broke, the insurance company will complete the job, and the payment bond guarantees that everyone, suppliers, subcontractors, labor will all be paid.
Okay. No, that's cool. Okay, so you got this, and then you kept doing jobs for the city.
Yeah, my first job, I was a little bitter. I was $52,000, and just sometimes whatever you touch in life goes good. Sometimes whatever you touch turns to crap. I
Sure.
guess I was in a period in my life everything was gold. $52,000 job, did it in 4 weeks and made $20,000,
Wow,
and
that's awesome.
I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. And then so the bonding company trusted me, and my next job was 90 some odd thousand. Banged that out in a short time, and that was it. I was off and running. I was 20 by time I was about 21. By the time I was 28, I was packing it in. I had 69 contracts running simultaneously, anywhere from $50,000 to 1.25 million.
Wow.
69. It was a monster. So I'd come home, I'd have trouble eating, breathing. My wife said, "What? Pains in my chest." And I said, "What? Am I off my mind? Big house, big car, big swimming pool, big contracts, big deal."
Sure.
I'm. It's not doing anything for my life. I was never really into money. It's just I showed up in my business every day, and whatever I touched went good. And so I walked in one day to my business. I said, "That's it. I'm closing this place down." Everyone looked at me. "Yeah, right." I said, "Yeah, no. I had it. I'm not into any of this stuff." Took 4 years to close it all down, and
Okay.
lost everything in that interim because closing a big business would run overhead still running. And lost it all. I was like, I don't really care. I just want out. At that time, it was the 70s.
So why didn't you sell it? Just out of curiosity.
Okay, good question. Somebody wanted to buy it from me.
Okay.
And I'm a funny guy. There's a word in Eastern I don't call it philosophy or what, called dharma, Dharma, dharma,
Yep.
which right action, right thought, right deeds. I said I started this business from the ground up. People trusted me. They gave me credit. Suppliers, subcontractors trusted me. I started it. I'm seeing it down to the end. I could
Sure.
have sold it, and it's just not my thing. I said, I'm going to make sure that I, as far as concerned, I the right thing is done for all these people, because contractors have a funny rep, and I knew him long enough. Yeah, no, 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 not good. So I wasn't going to turn it over to someone, and it wasn't matter. This was my baby. No, I wanted to see the right thing done. Well, it cost me everything, but I really didn't care. I wanted out. And I'll never forget, there was a line in this song by Bob Dylan at the time. I know, right? You know the name?
Yeah, yeah,
Dylan?
yeah.
Okay, the line went, all right, I've had enough. What else can you show me?
So, okay, so you close this down. Then what did you get up to?
Okay, so after hanging out a little bit, I said to my wife, okay, we have to make a living because we really don't have much.
Sure.
Right? And she was reading articles back then. Everything was earthy about these two girls who started a home sprout business, growing sprouts in the house and selling them.
Okay.
So they said, okay, whatever. I didn't want big business. I didn't want that anymore. So we grew some sprouts. At that time, we moved out of New York City and went upstate. Right?
Okay.
And we grew some, and we traveled down to the city, and we sold 6 little boxes of sprouts, right? And we came back. It was a 2-hour trip each way.
Sure.
And it was a big health food chain that I knew. Put 6 little bags into this. So I came back a week later. Right, we got paid $3, 50 cents a thing, and they were all rotted. Right, I go, okay, this is not a happening thing. Time to kick in business.
Okay.
Right,
Sure.
I grew a tremendous amount. Right, and I'll back into how it happened. And within 2 weeks, we're shipping a half a ton. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with alfalfa
Yeah,
sprouts.
yeah.
They're kind of light, right? No
Sure.
weight. We're shipping a half a ton a week down to every major health food store and restaurant and salad bar in the 5 boroughs.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and
Where
how I
did you have
did
the
it was,
space for all this stuff?
okay. I had rented. It was a fellow who had man had a dairy business upstate New York, because he used to supply all the hotels up there.
Okay.
So he had a building he wasn't using that kept in it. He parked indoors all his refrigerated trucks that he
Okay.
wasn't using. That wasn't the fleet in use. So I rented that building from him. We hooked up one of the refrigerated trucks, and that was our walk-in refrige.
Huh.
Right?
Interesting.
Then I created a system. I won't go into the details of the system, that every 4 days we could produce a quarter of a ton of sprouts. So every 8 days was a half a ton.
Oh, wow.
Right? And how we got this business was a little business sense. I walked into every single place and I said, hey, Sprouts. And they naturally, hey, I've been buying Sprouts from my distributor for years. Why buy yours? I said, look, I'm not going to tell you they're better. They're all good. But here's the bottom line. I'm not going to charge you. They said, what do you mean? I said, take them. I'll come back in a week. If you happen to sell them, you'll pay me. If not, you don't pay me. Nothing. Now, that's a setup.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I know when I come back the following week and I ask him if they sold, the owner's going to say, "Oh yeah, absolutely, sold right out." Why? Because when his distributor, he's selling them tofu and sprouts and candy bars or whatever, or other stuff for their salad bars. They've been selling it for years. So when I ask him the question, "Did they sell?" It's a loaded question. Of course he sold, but when his distributor would come along, he would take all his other products except the sprouts. You see, because he got mine for nothing. You're right. He wouldn't
Sure.
have to pay me unless they sold, and I knew, of course, they sold. It didn't take 2 weeks. We're shipping a half a ton a week.
Wow.
Oh yeah. That was great. And then eventually I sold that. It was too cold upstate in the winter. We sold that, and we then went down to Miami.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Why Miami? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, my mom was down there, and we bought a trailer when my business when I closed it all down left practically nothing. But I bought I used to call it the Silver Bullet, those big Airstream
Oh,
trailers,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we pulled it, went down to Florida, stayed in a camp for a while. So what to do for a living? Uh, Rented some space and again started Sprouts down there, but this time I was doing it approaching there's a big chain, Green something, I don't remember the name, of a supermarket, huge chain throughout the South. Well, it's with a P, I don't
Okay.
remember. And my brother was a graphic designer, but huge. I mean, they would fly him to England to design their Bankers Trust, to design their annual report of stuff. So super beyond professional firm. So
Sure.
so he says, Harris, no charge, but I get to design your box and your cover, your label.
That's
He
awesome.
did. Yeah. So I walk into this huge chain to this buyer's office. They take one look. They said, "Whoa, this is not a mom and pop Sprout thing." He says, "This is professional." And before you know it, I had the whole chain, and they were buying massive quantities of these boxed Sprouts. You must go. I don't know if Canada you have them. You go into a little. You go into the store in the fruit and vegetables
Yeah,
section,
yeah, yeah.
and they see little boxes of Sprouts. Well, that was
Totally.
me. They
Interesting.
were all mine.
And I,
Yep.
I love how you got a huge chain just by getting your brother to do the branding, basically. That's awesome.
Yep, yep. Oh, it was I mean, he was a professional. He did nothing but General Electric and Bankers
Okay.
Trust, all the big. So, well, it turned out I didn't like Florida. Florida is like Miami's like God's little waiting room for people. You
Okay.
we weren't going. We were not staying there. Came back to New York, uh, and a friend of mine had a car dealership. He was
Okay.
sort of like we grew up. We were born next door to each other, and he was sort of like a godfather to my sons. And he said, "Hey, Harris, I know you're looking for some kind of business to do, with the kids." He says, "How about daily car rental?" I said, "Daily car rental?" And he explained how it's lucrative. Why? I said, "Okay." Took he had a hook with Chrysler. I mean, he had car agencies.
Sure.
Took four vehicles within 18 months. I had a fleet of almost 80 vehicles.
Oh, wow.
Eight. Yep. So now the thing is, we did that for a number of years, total 7 years, and I realized it didn't take long to realize this is a retail business. The last thing I ever wanted to do was retail, dealing with one-on-one customers, especially I was used to contracting with huge numbers
Sure.
or shipping big quantities of Sprouts. Not someone comes to rent the car for $42. And they give you grief because you are a unfortunately necessary evil. The car. They just need the car
Sure.
for where they're going. But the cars are paying that. You know what I mean? They got to pay for it. They got to. So we sold that for a nice sum of money.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
yeah, and we got on the road, traveled some more, and went to India and other places because
Oh, wow.
I was a martial arts instructor for many years. My wife was a yoga instructor.
Okay.
So we went, well, that leads to meditation. Went to India, studied meditation. Then we came back and, okay, what to do with my two sons? So I started bidding again for the city of New York contracts. I still have, and that was a little 1999. Oh, 16 years ago. Yeah, 16 years ago. And I still have a couple years of contracts left on certain contracts I had. I had 15 years of contracts. I got 2 years left.
Oh,
That
interesting.
was it. Meanwhile, they said to me, "Hey, Dad, you've helped people your whole life. Why don't you? Why don't we just do a business helping people?" I said, if people need help, I don't feel good about charging them for help. We're not talking about corporations that are looking to restructure. We're talking about people, working people. So they said, "Why don't you write a book?" Now, here's a funny thing. I've helped people my whole life.
Sure.
Because you're successful, people equate that with being smart. I don't think one has anything to do with the other.
Okay. Why
In
why do you
fact,
say that? Just out of curiosity. I agree with
okay,
you, but I'm curious to know your take on that.
sure. First of all, it was a great story I once read about a Harvard professor. lunchtime. He's walking down the street and he sees a sign in a window. If you're so smart, how come you ain't rich? So he, by the time he got back to class, he told them about this and that he contemplated it. And he said he realized one has nothing to do with another. And how I can back that up is I have many friends of mine who stayed in business. In fact, there's a close relative, and they're all very well off, retired. Oh my God, Kevin, when I say not smart, oh, God bless them. I mean, so many ways, just stupid. But they were hungry. They had the eye of the tiger for money, and
Sure.
they didn't care. There was no such thing as dharma, doing things right. It didn't matter. They were
Okay.
hungry. You were their piece of meat, and they were going to beat you and take you. And it's like, not for me. So that's why I always had trouble in business in the sense of I could never stand and fight with you for money. So I'd have to devise other ways to put this. When I was on Bloomberg taking stock with Pim Fox, I don't know if you know that station, Bloomberg.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, yeah, they're the biggest in the world. So there I am on there, and they got people like Buffett and all these zillionaires, and they're introducing me as the man who teaches us how to squeeze more juice out of our orange.
Sure.
And that's what the book was about. It's teaching people. That's why it's called "It's My Money and I Want It." Is to teach people with their existing income. And every business, everyone in the world is looking to take as much as you out of your hide as possible. It's to teach people how they can squeeze more juice out of their orange, being they in business or an employer working for someone or fixed income or just getting out of school. And it's not about budgeting. It's using your head. And well, I just do it by example. That's all. The book is filled with story after story after story after story. And on one of I was on Bloomberg 3 times. On one of them, Joe Franklin said to me, he said, you're using money as a basis. He says, for what you're really teaching. It's not really about money, even though it is. It's not. He says, you're teaching people how to stand up for themselves and not be intimidated.
Sure, and that's an interesting way of putting it. So, do you maybe want to cover a little bit of like a couple strategies from your book?
Sure. There was a couple that I helped. They came to me, and they were doing selling jewelry
Okay.
door to door in the garment center in New York.
Okay.
And they were doing this for years and just getting by, but they hated it. They hated it because they said, they got to sneak by the bosses to get to the secretary to sell her $25 pair of earrings that they would come up 5 times to get paid out $5 a week. And it was always just sneaking around to collect the $5 bill, and this is what they did all day long. I said, guys, girls, to him and his wife, wait a second. Are you telling me that you're sneaking past the guy who makes $500,000 a year to get to the secretary making $25,000 a year? I said, it's the other way around. You're supposed to be you're sneaking past the money to get to the one in poverty. What are you doing? You
Sure.
need to be sneaking past her to get to the boss.
Sure.
And, right? And a light bulb went off in their heads. Well, they took my advice, and then I took them one step further. As they made progress, I said, now just know, we all tend to travel in the same financial circles. I mean, you and I aren't hanging out with Buffett and his wife, right?
Nope. Nope.
Okay. No, no, no. We all travel in the same financial circles
Sure.
that we are in, and Buffett's hanging out with his trillionaires. Well, he's a very real person, though. But anyway, I said, look, these wealthy people that you're in their office selling, they have wealthy friends, and wealthy people like to talk about how they are very, let's say, served in the sense of you become a personal jeweler to the
Sure.
wealthy people. I said, and how you do that? They said, how do you do that? I said, simple. You ask if one of these people you have a relationship up in the garment center selling them expensive pieces for their wives or husbands, right? Ask them if they could host a party, a very special party, okay? Just for them and a few close friends. and you're going to bring some beautiful pieces to display. Well, needless to say, they're very well off. They don't work that often, just at holiday times and when they get called for, special things, people's anniversaries or birthdays. They're like semi-retired and have a lot of money. So the lesson there is, I once heard someone say, change the prescription of your glasses. In other words, they were looking at their business wrong. They had a great business. They just weren't seeing it from the right perspective. And that's stuff that I'll do people in business. And I've had people say to me, this is great. You don't mind motor mouthing, do you, Kev?
No, no, it's good.
Okay. I've had people say, hey, I've been in business, for decades. I'm successful. What are you kidding me? What are you going to teach me?
Sure.
Right? Sure. Person's successful, business 20 years. So I said, well, I'll tell you a little story. I was on one of my government contracts, rehabbing the building, and I'm walking around with the government engineer, a young Italian fella.
Okay.
Nice guy. And we pass one of my lead carpenter, right, as we're going through the building, and he's installing a steel door frame. And he's an elderly Italian man, and this is great. Looking at the two of them, the way they converse with their hand motions and everything. And the young engineer said to him, "Hey Joe, you're not anchoring that door frame right. Not that it would fall down. It just wasn't exactly as per, the government spec."
Okay.
And the old Italian carpenter might says, "Hey, younger fella, what are you telling me? Joe has been doing it like this for 40 years." I just stood back and just watched their dialogue and their hand, the whole cultural thing between them.
Sure.
And the young Italian engineer said, Joe says, "What, you tell me I've been doing it like this for 40 years? And the young Italian engineer said, "Well, Joe, then for 40 years you've been doing it wrong."
That's awesome.
Right. So when I get business people telling me, "Hey, Harris, you're going to teach me something." Yeah, something? Maybe you could have made twice as much money with half the effort.
Sure.
So, right? Just because we're successful, or things have turned out right, doesn't necessarily mean, it cannot be a huge improvement. And my own story on that, I mentioned just before, I have 2 years left on 15-year contracts.
Right.
There was some work out to bid in all the schools. New York City is the biggest land property owner in New York. They have 1,500 buildings, schools.
Okay.
Well, it was a job for replacing toilet petitions.
Okay.
And my son says, just teaching bidding. They said, "Hey, Dad, this looks like simple work." So I said, no, factories bid that. The factories, manufacturers bid that direct. And so I toilet petitions. And they started to argue, "Hey, but this is easy." I said, we're going to get a price from manufacturers when they're going to do it. And then I remembered the story of, hey, for 40 years you've been doing it wrong. Maybe things have changed. I had been away from the business a long time, right?
Sure.
I had a car rental business, 2 Sprout business, moved around. So we bid, and it turned out, because there was removals involved of the old, etc., they didn't bid. We got it, and led to 15 years in contracts and millions of dollars in work. So there's a true life lesson on, just because you're doing a certain way, right?
Sure.
That changes, and also a lesson in, for so many business people, their children, they come into the business a lot of times, and the youngsters may be saying, "Hey, Mom or Dad, this or that," and they go, whoa, we've been running this business, but you know something? Those youngsters have a fresh set of eyes. They are seeing it without blinders. They are virgin eyes, and they may be seeing a whole lot of stuff you're not seeing because you've been locked in for too long doing it a certain way.
Sure. No, I think that's really good advice, and I think people kind of forget about that, right? I've had just obviously in my career I've kind of had to deal with clients over the years, and I've seen that a number of times where the son of the owner comes in and makes a bunch of big changes because they understand, say, technology or something more than their father, and so they want to use technology to make things cheaper or faster, and so I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, it's we should invite them in, not like, "Oh, son, don't tell me, let me tell you."
No, I think that's really good advice. I'm kind of curious about maybe, do you want to maybe give a strategy for kind of debt? I know a lot of people have student loans or whatnot, especially when they're trying to get a business off the ground, especially coming out of school. Do you want to maybe give any advice on that?
Sure, absolutely. It's a great, great subject, especially in today's economic times, at
Sure.
least in this country. People not only have debt, but debt collectors coming after them for the money,
Totally.
right? So I was on a show once. The host gave me a heads up that there's a woman who calls in who's on antidepressants because she had lost a job. She had over a dozen, I think it was 13 debt collectors, collection companies calling her. Do you have that in Canada?
Yeah, we
Collection
have
companies call?
they'll send you. Yeah, they have something similar to that. Yep.
Yeah, sending letters and calling.
Yep.
And she said the woman was basically suicidal. She didn't know what to do. To deal with it. I said, okay, good for the heads up. Well, sure enough, she calls in and I explained, I bet you don't answer the phone when you see where the call is coming from. Oh, no, 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 I do not. All the calls, I will not pick up the phone. I said, okay. Now, that person calling from the collection company, I don't like to call them an agency. Agency almost sounds like they're a government thing.
Sure.
It's a company. It's not an agency. We can, yeah, maybe technically it is, but it's just like business. I said, do you think that person calling is the sheriff or a government official or someone from the mayor's office and they're coming down to arrest you? No. In fact is, at least in this country, I assume Canada also, unless you committed fraud, there's no debtor's prison. You don't go
Yeah.
to jail to owe money. Is that right?
No, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's not fun to owe money,
Nope.
but you know something? It's not against the law, not unless you stole and committed fraud. So I said, "Did you steal one?" She says, "No, no, no. I lost my job." I said, "Okay." So now I understand that that person who's calling you is just actually someone's like an actor or a model, someone. It's usually people who need part-time jobs because they have to go out on their castings or their auditions and stuff. So they take those kind of jobs. And someone started a business, ABC collection company, and they wrote up a script. And that person under their phone, they're just reading the script.
Sure.
They couldn't really care when they hang up the phone outside of they're working on a percentage.
Right.
But otherwise, they hang up the phone. Next phone call. It's like robocalls. Next phone call. And their deal is to intimidate you, to get you crazy, to get you emotionally. You know you're supposed to pay. You have a debt. You have an obligation. They go on. She says, I know, I can't talk to them. I said, well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick up the phone. And there's a gasp. I said, no, 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 no. Listen, listen. You pick up the phone. Okay. Otherwise, they're going to call you umpteen times.
Sure.
And you talk to them, but not talk. You let them talk. And they're going to say, Mrs. So-and-so, yes. And, I'm from so-and-so collection company. You have a debt. Yes, I know. And, you have to pay. Yes, you're going to pay it. Don't have money. What do you mean, no, you have to pay it? And that's it. Don't argue. Let them talk for a few minutes. And just go, uh-huh, uh-huh. And they say, you there? Uh-huh. And don't get emotionally involved. Don't defend. Don't anything. Just say, yeah, no, no, I'm listening to everything you're saying. I'm not arguing it. And then after a few minutes, what I want you to do is say this. You say, look, you sound like a very, very nice person. And I know you're doing your job, right? And it would really be rude of me to hang the phone up on you. I would never do that. It'd be terrible. But I'm very busy myself. So what I'm going to do is, and I'm telling her, breathe while you're talking this. It may be hard, but please, in my book is actual scripts that I give people.
Okay.
Okay. And I said, and you're going to say to them, I'm I'm very busy too. I don't want to hang up on you. That would be terrible. So what I'm going to do is put the phone on speakerphone and I'll be doing my chores, the dishes or vacuuming, whatever. And you keep talking. You're a nice person. You have a nice voice. And anytime you want me, call out. I'll yell back, yes, I'm here. I'm still listening. And and if you get tired talking, don't worry about it. Hang up and call me back tomorrow. I'll put you back on the speakerphone. You keep talking. I'll keep listening and doing my chores.
That's awesome.
She, yes, I did this once for a fella. It was a relative. That's why I did it for him.
Okay.
He also had over a dozen of them. I made like I was the first one. excuse me, I made like I was him.
Right.
I said to him, I'm going to do the first one, you do the rest. Well, the collection person, the other end of the phone, when I did that, said, I don't have time to deal with someone like you. I have other people to call. Slam. And he did all the rest. They never called him back again. And then I went on to show how you negotiate your debt down.
Okay.
This whole chapter on that.
Do you want to maybe give a couple little tips on kind of that?
Sure, why not? Okay. Well, look, we don't want to do it, Kevin, like we do in Brooklyn. In
Okay.
Brooklyn, what we do is we sit down with the other person we owe money, and the first thing we say is the other person, now, Mr. Person, when we leave this room, the question is, do you want to be walking or you want to be limping? That's how you do it in Brooklyn. You ask them very simply, just tell me which knee you want to keep.
That's funny.
So, but we can't do things that way.
Sure.
So, uh, yeah, it's very simple. You have to figure out if you have any money to work with at all for all your creditors. I
Okay.
mean, if you don't have any, you don't have any.
Sure.
I mean, that's it. But if you do, or let's say, I don't know, make up a number. Yeah, you have it $2,000 that you could spare or borrow. Keep in mind, you'll have to pay that back if you borrow, your brother, your uncle, your father, whatever.
Sure.
And you owe $10,000.
Okay.
Right? Well, $2,000 is 20% of 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Therefore, you make a list of every creditor, everyone you owe money, their names and the amounts, their phone numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you figure out what 20% is of each one of them, right?
Okay.
This one you owe 500, so 20% is $100. This one you owe 1,000, 20% is $200. Now, by the way, collection companies will never negotiate because they only get, let's say, 20% on the dollar of what they collect. You
Right.
follow? So if you
Yeah.
owe $1,000, they're not going to settle, for $200 and get $40 out of it. So that's why you have to get it out of the collection company's hands, and that's how I told you run them out of town. And just know this: if you have a debt that is more than you have to call in your state. I don't know about Canada, but in your state, in New York, in this USA, you call the secretary. The attorney general or the secretary treasurer, either one of them, we're all very friendly. It's one of those two, and they'll tell you the statute of limitations on a debt.
Okay.
If it's exceeded that, and you get a call from a collection company, you tell them this debt is X amount of time, months old or year or whatever it is. It's past the statute of limitations. If you continue to call me, I will notify the attorney general's office and file a complaint against you. They'll say, look, just give us $10. We're fine. No, the minute you send one penny, the statute of limitations starts over again.
Okay. Interesting.
Good point. Okay.
Sure.
And a lot of times they are past the statute of limitations. Well, anyway, so now you figured out what 20% is, let's say. I'm using that as an arbitrary number. You have
Sure.
2,000. You figured out what is. And the collection company only gets a certain amount of time for the debt. When they get it from you owe a medical bill or whatever it is, and they get it from their client, they don't have it indefinitely. They have 3 months or 6 months or 4 months, whatever it is, to handle. And then it goes back to the original person. Now those original people saw that the collection company failed. They have
Interesting.
nothing. They will settle. But you don't offer them that 20%. You offer them way less because everyone wants to feel they're going to get more out of you than you're offering. So
Sure.
you start off low and you let them come up. And when you agree to something, right, you want it in writing from them that they will accept X amount of dollars in full payment of the entire debt, and they will notify the credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian,
Right.
that this has been settled in full. You want a copy of that letter because not half the time, a lot of times they don't notify them. So you have a copy of it that has been paid in full, right? You have to
Sure.
cancel the check or something, and then you send it to the credit reporting agency, and that's how you clear up your credit while paying off your debts.
No, interesting. That's really good advice, and it's interesting. Just I guess kind of what resonated with me about the debt thing is I know like a lot of people, especially in America, have a lot of like student debt and whatnot, and I'm sure other kind of credit card debt, and it's the same in Canada, and actually right now in the province I live in, we're kind of going through a bit of a recession here. Like we're a big oil province, and so with the oil being kind of terrible right now. Even the Canadian dollar is almost not half, but it's coming down quite a bit, where it used to be kind of on par with the American dollar, and so our dollar is doing kind of terrible right now. But so that's always kind of interesting to me, because there's a lot of people locally and kind of across North America and the world that are struggling with
Yes.
this stuff. So kind of any advice, I'm sure people appreciate that. But yeah, Harris, this has been awesome, and we're kind of running out of time, but I'm kind of curious if there's any other kind of stories you want to quickly share with the listener, or we'll kind of end this with kind of covering where people can buy your book and find you online.
Yeah, the best thing is, it's because we can go on endlessly with stories. Where they find me online is it's naturally it's harrishelps.org.
Okay.
Harris Help, HARRIS helps.org. They buy the book online. It's my money and I want it. They could also contact me through there. And the book is filled with scripts and stories and things to say, how to buy a business, how to go in business. Do you buy a business? Do you go into partnership with someone? Do you start from scratch? Endless, there's an entire chapter dedicated to business and business people going to business. Then there's an entire chapter on dealing with IRS, a chapter for householders, squeezing more juice out of your orange, how to hold on to more of your hard-earned money, having more, working less and easier without having to earn more. It's just filled with that stuff. When you walk away from the book, you walk away with a different state of mind. That's the deal. Not like how to invest, make $1 million. You walk away with an absolute different state of mind every time you put your hand in your pocket for a credit card or write a check.
No, that's a great way to kind of end the show, and I think what you're doing is really cool and really useful, and that's kind of why I wanted to have you on the show. But Harris, thanks again for doing this. It's awesome. I look forward to kind of keeping in touch with you, and who knows what the future will hold, right?
Yep, absolutely. Great time, great show.
Perfect. And I'll post the links and whatnot to what you just mentioned on the buildingthefutureshow.com, and people can kind of go there and check you out online and get a copy of the book. Thanks again. We'll talk soon. Have a good day. All right, man.
You too.
Hey, later.
Be well, babe. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the show. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check them out at electricmantra.com. Until next time, keep building the future.